If you're making a task force to try and stop Superman, why would you add somebody who specializes in throwing boomerangs? How is that helping anybody? Hey everybody, my name is Matt Hay and welcome to The Real Review. Suicide Squad is the third film to be released in this DC cinematic universe, or whatever you want to call it. So because of the events that happened in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, the government is now skeptical of superheroes. Because of this skepticism and fear, or whatever you want to call it, the government and other affiliated government agencies, maybe slightly shadier government agencies, essentially want to gather a bunch of villains together to create a task force or a Suicide Squad to be able to fight things like Superman and Batman if it were to ever happen again in the future. Yeah, so the government throws out this crazy scenario saying, hey, what if another alien being comes down very much like Superman but is evil and decides to rip the roof off the White House, grab the president, or do whatever he wanted to? The Earth would essentially be defenseless against this. And that's really what instigates this thought process in bringing in the Suicide Squad, or at least having it assembled. So I can't really go too far into it because of spoilers, but the Suicide Squad gets assembled, they get gathered together, all the ground rules are laid, and then they get sent to go rescue somebody in the city. While they're in the city, they run across all kinds of crazy stuff. They gotta fight and do all this stuff, and that's a lot of what you see in the trailers for this film. Now, this movie came out about a week and a half ago, and the overall consensus is that most people hate this movie. There are a lot of people giving this movie a ton of hate. You can even check out the Rotten Tomatoes score. I think it's at 27%. But guess what, guys? I kinda liked it. Was I disappointed though? Yes, I was a little bit disappointed because this was one of the most anticipated movies of the summer for me, and it didn't really fire on all cylinders like I wanted it to. The best part about this movie by far is all of the characters. They spend a good chunk of this movie setting up all of the characters and their backstories with flashbacks and those kinds of things all at the beginning of this movie. There are some instances where they fall short with the characters a couple of times, and it might just be because they're juggling so many characters, but for the most part they do a great job. With all of that being said, let me talk about the characters for a minute. One of my favorite characters in this movie is Deadshot, and he's played by Will Smith, brilliantly I might add. He has his Will Smith charm, charisma, just like he does, and he did a fantastic job. And right there, right alongside Deadshot, is Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. She was crazy in this movie, but she depicted the role perfectly. I don't know if you know much about the comics, but if you watch this movie, you will see Harley Quinn translated from comic book page to the movie screen. It was fantastic. Between Will Smith and Margot Robbie, it is really their movie. Their chemistry, their relationship together is so on point in this movie, and it's one of the more fun aspects to watch in this movie. So Joel Kinnaman is in this movie, and he plays this guy named Rick Flag, and he's kind of like this good but not really good guy character. If you've seen the show The Killing, you know that he's got the chops. He's a great actor, and I think it translates well into this movie. Although there were times where he had this accent, I felt like it was kind of like almost Texas/Southern accent, and it started fading in and out a little bit. Don't know what that was about. Almost all of the side characters I really enjoyed in this movie. You have Jay Hernandez, who played El Diablo, who had this really great backstory that I really liked, and this cool arc that happened from the beginning to the end of the movie. And then you also have Jai Courtney's character, Captain Boomerang. Now, if you were to ask most people who Jai Courtney was, a lot of people would be like, I don't know who that is. If you were to ask movie critics who Jai Courtney is, people would be like, I know who that is, and I don't like him. I don't necessarily agree with the critics on this consensus. I think Jai Courtney is actually a pretty good actor. I think he's just been pushed in a lot of roles that really don't fit him and don't really play well to his strengths. In Suicide Squad, Jai Courtney is excellent. He's an auxiliary character. You learn a little bit about him, but he's just kind of like this fun presence that pops in and out every now and then. Then you have this character named Killer Croc, who's like half human, half crocodile. Doesn't have a ton to do in this movie, but he looks cool, I guess. Last but not least, you have Jared Leto, who plays the Joker. Yeah, I really like Jared Leto as a Joker. Yeah, there are some similarities between Heath Ledger's Joker, but I thought it was enough his own that it fit this movie for what it needed to be. There are a couple of things that I felt like this movie did not do very well. One, the story was not very good at all. The plot was very thin. In fact, at times I would argue that it doesn't make sense. Two, I thought the villain was really weak. The villain almost seemed like they didn't know who to make the villain, so they just randomly picked somebody to become the villain. Also, there were times with the villain, with one of the villain's accomplices, that they really started to make me feel like I was watching one of the Mummy movies, with Brendan Fraser. That's not really a good thing for this movie. It was kind of cheesy and out of left field. My third problem with this movie is the editing. It was very sloppy, it was very choppy. There were a lot of instances where you're like, wait, what just happened? Because they cut to another scene so fast and you don't really know how they got there or what's happening. It's almost like sections of the entire movie have been removed either at will on purpose or they just didn't film a specific scene they needed. It was weird. Now this movie went through a lot of reshoots and maybe that is a reflection of those reshoots. I wouldn't say this movie is great by any means, but I had a lot of fun at it. I had a lot of fun with the characters. It was enjoyable. The action was okay. There were some like mediocre moments that were like, that's generic. But for the most part, you go to watch the characters and they really, really delivered on that part of the movie. With all of that being said, I'm going to give Suicide Squad a B-. Now it's your turn. Have you seen Suicide Squad? Tell me what you thought about it. Comment in the section below, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and you have an awesome rest of the day.